Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining this webcast. My name is Ambrose McNevin. I am the Editor-in-Chief at Computer Business Review, and I will be your moderator for today's event. Today it is my pleasure to have Colt Data Center Services, who, along with its partner HP, specifically its cloud practice, will be discussing what makes colocation your pathway to the cloud. Today's speakers are Robin Brown, who is Portfolio Vice President for Colt Data Center Services, and Robin will be followed by Hans van Breda. Hans is GTM Manager EMEA for HP's workload and cloud practice. Before we start the presentations, I would like to take a few moments to explain the format for today's cast and to explain some of the features of the platform for those of you who are unfamiliar with ON24. As I said, you are logged onto the webinar platform ON24. This webinar is browser-based, so if you disconnect, click the link you receive via the email to rejoin the session. Today's cast consists of 2 presentations and a Q&A session. During the presentations, you will have the opportunity to take part in 3 different polls. We like these casts to be as interactive as possible, and to that end, at the end of the presentations, you will have the opportunity to post questions for today's speakers. Questions can be on the information shared today or on broader cloud adoption subjects you wish to cover. You can post questions at any time during today's presentations. In order to ask questions, you can send them via the Q&A widget at the bottom of your screen, or use the questions box at the top left-hand corner of the screen. We have allocated around 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the session to address any questions or thoughts that you may have. We also have a brief survey to gain feedback on this session. This is located in the red survey widget and will appear on the screen once the broadcast ends. We have additional resources with some PDFs and URLs for you to view should you wish throughout the webinar. These are located in the green resource list widget. For those of you using social media, you may also tweet about today's webinar or follow the live Twitter tweets that are happening at Colt_technology. And you can follow it using the hashtag Colo2Cloud, which you can see on your screen. Finally, if you have any difficulties, please use the help widget if you require any more assistance. I will be back during the poll questions and for the Q&A session, but without further ado, please allow me to welcome Robin Brown, who is our first speaker for today's webcast. Robin, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ambrose, and thank you to everyone else who's joining us today. I wanted to take you through my views on what makes colocation our pathway to the cloud, and what's influencing adoption of the cloud, what's influencing how businesses are moving towards a distributed kind of hybrid platforms, and some of the issues with that. What I'd really appreciate as well as we go through is any questions that you have. As Ambrose said, we do have a poll question coming up, and so I'll be really interested to discuss with you the results of that while we go through the presentation. Now, we've seen some large changes in the kind of business landscape over the very recent future, and I like to use Uber as an example of that. Uber has a valuation at the moment of about $40 billion. That came as quite a shock to me, and it's only a small business, as it were, in many of our minds. But actually, when you look at it in that way, it's got a larger essential market capitalization than something like Sony. So this move towards a completely shifted landscape where a cloud-based application has more value essentially than a company with a long history behind it, I think really points towards how we need to be able to support from a technical infrastructure base, but also understand how businesses are transforming. And the reliance on essentially data center services, colocation services, network services, the connectivity of devices and how people are interacting with applications is becoming more and more a significant part of the business landscape as well as our personal landscapes. Now, all of that clearly is underpinned by a number of different elements to essentially the OSI seven-layer model, and where the core of it sits is in the data center environment itself. And I think we've got a changing landscape there as well, where we have a traditional data center infrastructure based around colocation services and the support of business servers. But as the environment is becoming more virtualized and as people demand more flexibility, I see a move towards more of a as-a-service environment. Now, we've been hearing that for a long time, both in the data center world, infrastructure, platform, and software. And I think it doesn't have to be just a business model, but a realization that businesses are looking for more flexibility in how they manage their assets, but also how they react to the market. You know, if we go back to my example of Uber and start thinking about how they are growing, how fast they have grown, and how disruptive they're being in the marketplace, they would not have been able to be as successful as they are without a infrastructure base that was flexible and could grow with them. We see the same things with companies like Rovio and their Angry Birds application. If they couldn't scale quickly enough to manage the number of people who wanted to download the application, then they could have easily have disappeared and never had the success that they had. We believe, and I believe, that flexibility at every layer is what's required, and that's on the kind of data center infrastructure side, the application layer as well. And so when moving to the cloud and when moving to hybrid environments and when managing the security around it, I believe it's critical that businesses review the flexibility of those offers. And I'll come on to a little bit more of that later. Now, we've been doing quite a lot of research into how businesses see the problems that they have in moving towards managing their own future requirements. And we did a report, we commissioned a report, and what we found was that within the current infrastructure setup that businesses have, there is a current need which is ahead of where they are at the moment. So, they are not, in most cases, fully set up for even their current need, let alone their future requirements. And so only 1 in 4 of the businesses believe they're ready for the future. And we coined a phrase here, I believe we coined it anyway, was the tech deficit between their current infrastructure and their future requirement, where we saw that 72% of the businesses that we polled have a tech deficit. And of those, 90% believe that their data center infrastructure needed to evolve to meet future needs. Now, there's a number of reasons for the evolution that's required there. Some of it's down to legacy IT systems that cover, applications that they're hoping to migrate from, and how they manage their infrastructure deployments within the data center. But also the fact that the data centers that they're in, the needs and their needs for those data centers are changing. We've seen an evolution in how businesses look at distributed architecture. We've seen requirements for much more distributed sites, and with data sovereignty and local legislation affecting decisions as well. It was very interesting to hear as well that just over half believe that they need to improve their infrastructure in order to be able to serve their customers better. And I think the customer and the delivery of services to a customer are becoming increasingly important in our discussions with our clients, but also in how I think the IT infrastructure within a business is understanding what its requirements are to serve the customer. Businesses as well are starting to understand that there are a number of interconnected dependencies on their infrastructure. And so when we look at the traditional way of buying a rack and hosting a internal IT infrastructure and delivering that to internal clients, there was a tradition of buying a wide area network infrastructure, buying an internet connection, and off you go. Over the last 5 years specifically, and certainly with some of the kind of more technologically advanced sectors over more than a decade, we've seen people really starting to understand that proximity to trading platforms, distributed content delivery networks, internet exchanges for peering, really make their data center infrastructure, the applications that they're deploying, much more efficient. And that's driving cost efficiency, it's driving resource efficiency, but it's also delivering a better service internally to their internal customers and allowing them to deploy more and more services to their external clients. In looking at an infrastructure play and how you deploy IT services, it's critical, therefore, to think about how all of those individual elements support the data center infrastructure. So on that, I'd like to move to a question. Connectivity, I believe, is one of the most critical elements, and we can move that towards even thinking about voice as a critical application. I've kept voice out of this question for the moment because I'd like to focus on connectivity from an IT estate perspective. And so, what I'm interested in from you is, what connectivity type do you think is most critical for your business? And I'm thinking specifically here in relation to your infrastructure deployment. Is it internet peering? And by that I mean direct connections to the internet exchanges. Is it connection to latency critical platforms? And by that I mean trading platforms, applications themselves, so SaaS deployments, or even in the media environment, video and broadcast. Or direct links to cloud providers, and there I mean for external IT deployments, so a hybrid cloud environment, or even just internal connectivity, be it between your own platforms within a data center, or between offices and distributed platforms.
Thank you, Robin. Just while people are considering their answers, what prompted you to approach it from this perspective, this connectivity perspective? We hear a lot about location. We hear a lot about proximity, certainly in the financial world. What have you observed? And I'm thinking specifically about two types of companies. You started talking about companies like Uber, companies that are born on the internet and understand some of these requirements. What are you seeing from that type of requirement for that type of company, but also from the more traditional enterprise? Is it sector market specific, or are you seeing a pretty kind of even spread?
So two parts there. Where are we coming from? Why are we asking the question? And then the business spread on it. I think the reason I believe this is an interesting question is when traditional data center businesses were building out, they really excluded themselves from the connectivity play. Very much, we are carrier neutral, or we're carrier hotels. Come into our data center. The data center is a power and cooling site, and go and sort out your connectivity yourself, and we have lots of options for you. I think that the service there is maturing significantly to a point where businesses are expecting to understand the connectivity options almost first, and expect the power and cooling piece to be there as well. The data center providers that are out there, Colt included, but Equinix, etc., are all talking about cloud platforms, interconnectivity. How do we provide services to our clients that enable them to drive their applications? And so I believe that the connectivity side is critical in that. And I think we talk about carrier neutrality in all of our sites at Colt, and sometimes people question that, but we believe that all data centers have to be carrier neutral in order to provide the service that's required from a data center. But the connectivity requirements are very, very different depending on different industry types. A financial institution versus a media institution versus a logistics business have completely different requirements. And so, it's critical for us to understand both the market where the data center is, as well as the client we're talking to, in order to build a connectivity product that meets their needs. Does that answer your question, Ambrose?
Very, very much so. Yes, thank you, Robin. Obviously, I think what you're talking about there is coming at it not just from, what you say, an infrastructure layer, data center layer, but understanding the application requirements of the businesses that you're dealing with, I think.
Yes, and we're not, I'm not talking about running applications at all, and I think that's where there's a kind of gap in often in the proposition, is that what we're doing is we're taking the application into account in ways that I think have been missed in the past.
Exactly. Okay. We're going to move on to the answers now. So, okay. Interestingly, today's audience are looking at links directly to the cloud providers and to application services in the main part. And also, interestingly, then you're looking at distributed environments for organizations running their own platforms. So, do you want to have a comment on that, Robin?
Yeah, really interesting, actually. I wasn't necessarily expecting that. I think the connectivity between your own and other platforms is something we're actually working very heavily on providing. I believe the idea of a kind of metro cross connect or a site-to-site connectivity piece is very critical. I was actually in a conversation with an analyst the other day, and just put my Colt hat on for a minute, and we were talking about what all the different data centers that are in the market offer in relation to connectivity. And one of the things that was quite interesting was they turned around and said to me, but your data centers aren't as connected as other people's. And I had to remind them that we had one of the most dense fiber networks in the whole of Europe, connecting all of our data centers, but also, most importantly, all of the other third-party data centers pretty much across the whole of Europe, which differentiates us massively. And so I think when you're talking about the connectivity between, platforms within our data centers, but within third-party data centers, but also onto all of the Colt on-net buildings across the entire base, we were interestingly the best positioned data center infrastructure provider in the whole of Europe to deliver that specific piece. So I'm pretty happy that's it sounds pretty cheesy, but I'm pretty happy that's the answer that's come out.
Fantastic. Okay, thanks. Okay, so I'll let you continue with your presentation.
Thanks, Ambrose, and thanks everyone for helping us with the poll. So I think when we talk about the things that people need to think about, it's very easy to do the basics like security or IT optimization, the scalability of the services. But I think at the end of the day, customer service is absolutely critical in how we deliver this. I'm talking about integrated systems here between an infrastructure play in a data center, the connectivity around it, the platforms that then need to be managed, and the software applications on top of it. I believe that local support in country, and I know we've got people joining us from all over Europe today, and understanding, does the provider you're talking to deliver a proper customer service to you? And by that I mean local language support in each country, local language contracts. And I think unless you have that dedicated customer service experience, then you're never going to be truly in control of what's being provided. But also, we understand that there needs to be a lot of collaboration between the customer and our employees, and it's critical that that's done on a local basis. I think the days of thinking you can just fly someone out from a city centre to support are in the past, and our capability to deliver a kind of customer services piece is going to be increasingly important going forward. But let's not forget business transformation and the migration of technology. And I think one of the points that came up there was capital shortage. I think many businesses now are looking to understand how they can efficiently grow their services from an OPEX perspective without significant amounts of capital. We offer huge amounts of flexibility in how we deliver our data center services. Most of our sites are fitted out, and where we are supporting our clients massively is in managing a kind of move towards hybrid environments, a move towards understanding how they can use their current legacy IT platforms and make best use of the cloud. And I think that comes back around to the connectivity piece. Now, thinking on where we go from now and listening to our customers, our tech deficit report asked people what was their preferred route into infrastructure. And no doubt the answer was simplification. Now, all of the answers below, efficiency, flexibility, protection, backup, automation, innovation, all of those things really, I feel, come through from simplification. And one of the biggest headaches that we see from CTO, CIO, IT director, data center manager is that they are trying to run legacy systems with new systems, with new applications being delivered from the cloud, with some dev environments in the cloud as well. And that's increasingly becoming a much more complicated landscape than was being managed in the past. So where we want to try and help with that is in creating an infrastructure that is flexible to the requirements of each business that we talk to, and that allows for a European-wide deployment if necessary, but offering the connectivity options that make it easy. So that if you are running servers in Amazon Web Services or on any other cloud service platform or within an HP environment or wherever you're wanting to test, dev, or move into production, that we can offer you a hybrid environment to manage that. So this plays into, I think, the strengths of Colt, and so this is my little sales pitch piece essentially. The Colt capability is very much around connectivity. We have 29 data centers, and that's in Southeast Asia as a result of our acquisition of KVH, and 22 in Europe, Western Europe. But as I said before, the connectivity piece into over 20,000 buildings and into 530 plus data centers in total gives us a capability that's not seen anywhere else in our immediate competition in Western Europe. But on top of that, due to our network reach, we've also put in private connectivity into the major cloud service providers. And that enables anyone who's located in our sites to have private connectivity into those cloud platforms, which I think is a significant differentiator. So, moving on to my final slide, I see data centers as the core of linking networks and IT services together. Now, the customer service piece is clearly very, very important. And I shouldn't underestimate as well the focus on carrier neutrality. We are a network service provider, we are a data center service provider, we're an IT service provider, and we provide voice services across our enterprise estate, and wholesale customers as well, clearly. We believe that gives us a capability to deliver very distinct and differentiated services, and we are very, very focused in each one of our areas on delivering those. So With the customer services piece, we can tie all of those elements together and provide a very specific service if required, or a service that merges all of our capability. But at the end of the day, when it comes back down to it, I believe that the connectivity that links all of the infrastructure services, both between the cloud and fixed infrastructure, is what's going to be key for our clients who are delivering those applications to their internal and external clients themselves. So thank you everyone. Ambrose, I'll hand back over to you now.
Robin, thank you very much indeed. That was a fantastic insight, great context on the movement to the cloud from a colocation perspective, from the physical, the infrastructure, as you emphasized, the connectivity and the services play. I'm struck that the objectives of moving to the cloud, the conversations are not that different from trying to convince people to give up server hugging when colocation first emerged as a proposition some years ago. Now we're just talking about a similar kind of thing, but in the context of cloud driving the business forward. So to that end, I'm now delighted to invite to speak Hans van Breda. Hans, as I said, is the GTM manager EMEA for HP's workload and cloud practice, and Hans is going to give us some insight on the HP's perspective of colocation as your pathway to the cloud. Hans?
Yes, good morning, good afternoon everybody. Indeed, my name is Hans van Breda, this is Dutch, and I'm the go-to-market manager for the workload and cloud practice in EMEA within HP. And indeed, I will bring you through the business and IT challenges that we have, and how HP is enabling its customers to go on the journey to cloud. As you can see here, this is an interesting world I think we're all living in, from an IT perspective, from a business perspective, from an application perspective. I think there's a lot of challenge for everybody here, and I must say, in the meantime, in the last few years, and probably also in the coming years, there will be never a dull moment. Because what's happening? I think there are significant business trends happening that are causing enterprise IT organizations to fundamentally change the way what they do, and also the value they bring to the business. These big trends include cloud computing, security, big data, and mobility. And also these trends are driving enterprise IT to be more user-centric focused, providing faster access to applications and services, and simplifying the IT environment, supporting innovation and driving down cost. Enterprise IT organizations are being driven to be closer to the business, supporting new business opportunities, leveraging new IT delivery models, and bringing together consumer and enterprise experiences with the goal of enabling business growth. Because at the end, that is all, everything is about business, it's about growth, and it's about enabling from an IT perspective this business growth. And also, I think from an IT perspective, you will have a changing role towards your business. The demand for anytime, anywhere access to information from employees and consumers has initiated a transformational shift, which HP calls the new style of IT, and is powered by a convergence of fourth generation defining trends like security, big data, mobility, and cloud. In our customer base, we see a big demand of time to market, marketed projects that needs to be online within weeks instead of months. Also expanding companies to new geographies like South America or China or Australia. And so there are big changes and big challenges over there. We are driving these big changes today, and also the way these services are consumed. So IT needs to meet enterprise imperatives and accelerate its speed with modernized applications and web services. Whether it's the business users or the end users you support, they are challenging you to speed the rate of innovation, accelerate your services, improve your flexibility, lower cost, but also manage your risk. For instance, companies can no longer take 9 months indeed to develop version 1.0 of an application, and then take another 9 months to develop version 2.0. Today things really happen in days and weeks, and that specifically we see coming back in cloud native applications. And I already liked Robin's example on the Uber. We see companies coming in from all sides, and I have got some examples like Zalando, which started with shoes, but now also is doing fashion, and they are really hitting the main street, the high street shops, and we need to keep up. They need to keep up with internet shopping, multi-channel, and so on. The other thing will be an interesting development is, for example, Apple and payments and Google and payments. And in the last few years, with my 19-year-old daughters, I already see an interesting development like WhatsApp. In the past, we did SMS. Now it's all about WhatsApp, and WhatsApp will also be voice-enabled in the near future. I heard an interesting sentence of one of my colleagues in the last few weeks. He said, well, if you look at the fast pace of changes and new entrances of companies, it's the mantra within companies should be it's disrupt or be disruptive. Be disrupted. Yeah? So as a company, as IT, as business, you need to think about your future, you need to think about your strategy, and obviously this is key for a company and the IT department itself. What helps is the promise of cloud. You see here a few examples what's the promise of cloud, and one of the primary benefits customers expect from the cloud is to increase agility, and we want flexibility, and that has to do also with the move and the shift from CAPEX to OPEX, and also with the pace of business accelerating. Companies need to be able to quickly deploy new applications, update existing applications, and IT organizations often take a few weeks to as long as 6 months to provision new VMs. That is unacceptable. Recently I talked to a CIO of a bank, and he said, well, it takes me 9 months now. If I don't change this in the next few quarters, then I will have a major problem, major issues. And by the way, in the meantime, I'm creating a kind of gray area IT, because like marketing departments, they start to buy their own IT services with their credit cards. And of course, this is from a banking perspective and data security, another development I want to see. So, talking about security, indeed, security also continues to be the top concern of CIOs as they look to the cloud computing. Yeah, protecting customer data or internal data is critical. Many countries have regulations that require customer data to stay within country boundaries, and for global organizations, this means they need to work with partners that have the ability to govern where data is located. In the past we thought that well, cloud is cloud, we don't know where the cloud is, but I can tell you from an enterprise customer perspective, they really want to know. They even want to know where the cloud data center is, they want to visit the cloud data center, and I've taken a few companies, which I will tell you later, also to Roosendaal, in the Colt HP data center, and they really need to know about security. They don't want to be the next Sony. Another promise of cloud is that managing cost is always a concern of IT. Yeah? Organizations that use cloud computing, they report they have reduced their total IT cost. And cloud computing helps organizations to do this through higher resource utilization and shifting pricing strategies that better align with usage and reduce IT labor costs through automation. Yeah? So also cloud enables you to have higher levels of automation. Also, your cloud platforms most of the time are pre-configured already in a data center, or you can have your own managed private cloud in your own data center. But at least a high level of automation helps you reducing cost. Another interesting development in this cloud space, but also in the application development space, is the speed of application development. The rapid pace of application development is forcing organizations to release updates or new applications much faster than ever before. Suppose you're having a mobile app which is maybe not working completely 100%, then you already will notice within a few seconds, because the external communities will help you remind you on these mistakes or faults in your application. So you need to keep up. You need to keep up with new developments. And in the past, maybe you had 4 application updates per year. Nowadays, you got 52 updates per year, and in the future maybe you will have 120 updates per year. So that requires a complete new organization within your IT and with your application development organization. Going to the next slide. Depending on what you read, on what kind of cloud report you read, it doesn't matter. All these reports will tell you the cloud adoption will grow. It's quite clear that cloud usage, but not only from an infrastructure perspective, but also from a PaaS and SaaS perspective, this will grow in the next few years. Enterprises are rapidly adopting cloud technology. And as you can see from this chart today, the typical enterprise IT organization is spending 7% of their budget on cloud technologies. Early adopter companies are rapidly deploying cloud technologies. And by 2018, 40% of enterprises will be using cloud, which represents still the early majority. And from my day-to-day practice, we see customers indeed moving fast. They say one example we have in the UK is a company with still owning 3 data centers. In the next 18 months, they're moving all their applications into a dual data center cloud environment. Other companies are taking it step by step. They wait for compelling events, so they are pushed, like the end of support for Windows 2003, or maybe a test and dev platform that's end of life. IDC, for the other side, predicts that more than 65% of the enterprise IT organization will commit to hybrid cloud before 2016. So all interesting numbers on cloud, on growth, and of course, is it only very positive? Well, companies are also very prudent and aware of the challenges, because there are some critical challenges they face. One of them is security. As nation states and organized crime fixate on breaching organizations, talked already about Sony, cloud security will be paramount. And mainly in most of the discussions that we have with customers, this is one of the key topics. How do I take care of my data? Where is my data? Who's having access to my data? Etc. etc. 50% of the IT executives have stated it's their biggest barrier. I want to put some context around this. Large companies like HP and its Fortune 500 peers suffer as many as 50,000 cyber intrusion attempts per day. 50,000 cyber intrusion attempts per day. The Pentagon, HP customer, reports 10 million attempts per day. Just to underline the importance of security. Another one, for example, is that 71% of IT executives believe that open standards are critical to their cloud strategy. A Fortune 25 customer mentioned a staggering statistic. His company has invested over 150 million man-hours in legacy code. That translates in around $11.3 billion investment. So, in the last year, this changed. He invested 250,000 man-hours in code for the new style of IT, in cloud-enabled applications. So as a result also, in this legacy investment, customers need to bridge this investment. They need to bridge to cloud-enabled legacy applications. So it's very important for customers that they can have help and support with application transformation towards cloud. Another important topic is compliance. Since 2008, there have been 800 regulatory changes in the United States alone. And there are hundreds more in queue moving through Washington and legislative bodies around the world. The hybrid cloud allows you for easy transition from public cloud to private and managed clouds, ensuring your organization can easily adapt to changing regulatory environments. Another one is vendor lock-in. Customers, they want to have an open standards, an open IT environment, and they are able to shift workloads from one cloud to the other cloud. So, just to check with you at this moment, what kind of platforms, cloud platforms, are you using at this moment? Do you use a private cloud on-premise, so in your own data center, which is your own cloud, single tenant? Or do you use a private cloud in a third-party data center? Or do you use a multi-tenant virtual private cloud? Are you already using public cloud or maybe a SaaS provider cloud like with Workday or Salesforce.com? Or do you use a mix with hybrid cloud, which also a lot of companies and analysts see as the future, a mix of multiple cloud platforms? Let me see very quickly. So please give me your results and feedback in this poll.
Thank you, Hans. Hans, you've raised a lot of interesting issues there in the first part of your presentation, which is obviously now looking at your question around the type of cloud platforms that are being used. Just in your experience from the conversations you're having with these CIOs, what is the level of recognition? One hears that some people see it as a business opportunity and see that the idea of moving to cloud is about reducing costs, added flexibility, improving services. And at the other extreme, despite, as you've laid out, the concerns, some see it as an existential threat to the existing business. Well, what's the flavor of the conversations that you're having at the moment?
Well, I think the flavor of the conversation, I think within the CIO and the IT organization is they see an expansion of the toolkit. They can enable the business better, faster, more flexible. They can look in a more thorough way at cost. But of course, like we mentioned with risk and security, that's still a big challenge for them. There is also something else which is having impact on his organization, because by starting to consume cloud or build your own cloud, you also will see an impact on your delivery organization. So it will have an impact. You need to educate people, probably a change of role, and you need also to learn how can you deliver the services from these cloud platforms, but also from SaaS and PaaS, in a good way and in a structured way towards your internal, external customers. And there you see a new development that customers say, well, I need a catalog. I need a very good simple overview of all my services, so customers can start, let's say, consuming these services. And the other big change is I will be not anymore a builder, but more and more I will be a broker, which is which is also a discussion on my next page.
Okay, let's just see if we can move on to the answers. So.
Well, interesting. Private cloud, third-party center. So it's an interesting mix, and also that underlines probably the future that we will see. And the interesting thing also is it's about workloads at the end. Of course, it's good to have all these different cloud platforms, but workload will drive the qualification for which cloud is best positioned to have this workload. And also the industry impact is also obviously quite big. If you're in finance or let's say within hospital with all kind of customer data, patient data, or government, then probably you will use less public cloud and probably use more private cloud or virtual private cloud. And but it's an evolution/revolution. So I did see a Gartner report in the last week. They did also a survey with around 1,000 CIOs around the world. And hybrid cloud, obviously, the mix of the different platforms together with the legacy IT still is the preferred model for the future. And the moment customers start using public cloud, they will start for their enterprise workloads like SAP or Oracle, they will start to use private cloud or virtual private cloud. So it depends on the starting point, the current mode of operation. Interesting.
Very much so. Okay, I'll let you get back to your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And to underline the possibilities that are there is from an HP perspective, we have the HP Helion brand. And the HP Helion brand is the name for the HP cloud portfolio, which includes the cloud services, hardware, software, and advisory. And as you can see, HP clearly is supporting hybrid IT. because we still have a lot of customers with traditional IT. More and more we want to enable customers with public cloud, private cloud, managed cloud, and of course depending on cost, compliance, performance and security. Because with hybrid IT in the past, IT had only one option for deploying applications, and it was traditional IT. Now they've got multiple options. And also brokering services is quite important. I already mentioned IT CIOs, IT managers more and more move from being a builder, doing everything on their own with their own team, have their own data center, build applications and infrastructure over there. More and more they become a broker. They will start consuming services, indeed, like managed cloud, private cloud, public cloud, or infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. The biggest challenge is how do you bring this together and have, let's say, one glass on all these kind of services and enable your customer to make use of it. And I'll also mention shortly the developer-centric option, because today supporting developers mostly means providing them with VMs. And however, this is not sufficient anymore. IT must provide a complete development environment that allows developers to focus on code development. And there is a lot of interesting developments going on over there with Helion application development platform, linking into OpenStack and all these kind of things. But this is all nice. But as also Robin said, without a supporting infrastructure as a service, without a supporting data centers, without a supporting networking environments, we're nowhere. And also from an HP perspective, HP is running around 50 data centers worldwide. And this is changing during the year because I must say we did a huge data center consolidation in the last few years, but still we've got 50 plus. And in 24 of these data centers, we run a virtual private cloud instance. And they are, let's say, in North America, South America, in Asia, Australia, and in EMEA we had a specific situation there. We said, well, we really want to focus on enterprise cloud workloads, production workloads, and in EMEA we got 7 dual data centers with these cloud instances. So you can start with one server, but you can also have dual data center kind of environments. This is a major investment for HP, I must say. And it enables not only our install base customers, but also our new logo customers. And it's an interesting development, I must say. And the other thing is, we don't do this alone. Because, yes, we are proud on these data centers, but HP is not owning all their data centers. They are having these cloud environments or are having hosting opportunities. As we mentioned, and I will get into a little bit more detail afterwards, we also do this together with partners, which are essential for our success in the marketplace. The other thing is what we do is, it's not only about infrastructure as a service, but it's also about application management, and application transformation. As you have seen, there has been a huge investment in legacy applications. And with the assessment that we do with customers in the early stage engagement, we assess their application estate. And I must say interesting outcomes are there, because sometimes they have licenses for applications they don't use anymore. Sometimes they've got mainframe environments. They need to discuss, okay, what are we going to do with this? Will we move the application towards a cloud environment, or will we, let's say, retire it in the next few years? So all these kind of discussions are very important, and we do this in workshops together with our customers.
Hans, I'm just going to say, can we possibly just move on to the next poll? I'm just aware that we're tight for time, and we want to get. I know we have some interesting questions already that have been submitted. So if we just jump straight into the next poll, that would be great. Thanks.
Yes. So very short. What are the most important criteria selecting your cloud platform? We discussed it already a little bit. Please give us your feedback.
That's great, thanks. If we just give, I'm just going to go back to the question, just to give our audience an opportunity to That's fine. Just to consider their answers and see the options that are available. You mentioned you did mention partners are very important. Obviously, with you're partnering a lot with Colt in terms from an infrastructure perspective. I know that you're talking a lot about applications and business drivers at this point. So, in terms of your partnership with Colt, to be specific, we mentioned in the last poll, I think it came up in your presentation, that companies want to see the physical infrastructure. Companies want to see where their applications are going to be hosted. How important is that to them to actually understand the data center, where they're and see and be comfortable with the data center environment in which their workloads are going to be hosted?
Yeah, while people answer the question, the poll on the screen, I will go into my next two slides when with your question. I think it's key. I think what we see obviously is that the client needs that our customers put in front of HP. We need to translate that to our partners. So on security, compliance, data sovereignty, etc., etc. We need to say to our partner, in this case Colt, can you indeed align with these needs? And we had interesting in the last few years. We have had a very close cooperation with Colt in the Netherlands, in Roosendaal, where in the last few years there was built, I think, a 10,000 square meter data center, of which HP is using a big part. And I'm doing customer visits over there on a regular basis. We have meetings with customers over there. We do workshops with customers over there. We also do the data center tour over there. Because still you can imagine what is a white shoebox with all kind of zooming machines in it. Customers love it. They give us very positive feedback because they just want to see how safe, how secure and how trusted these environments is, because they put a big amount of their of the company assets, company IP, company revenue stream in a data center like this. And I'm really impressed. I'm always very proud to take a customer over there, because the moment you're at the fence, you know already you have got a safe pair of hands here. And if you want to go to the poll here, security, interesting.
Sorry, Hans. We just want to say as we're getting a bit pushed for time.
So this is the last one, and indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we can come back to the poll on the Q&A section.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. Okay, you go to the Q&A session.
Okay, so if you just want to wrap up with your closing statements. Yeah.
So indeed, impressed with the cooperation with Colt. In the Netherlands, they really enabled our cloud business. We see install-based customers who are moving their workloads over there. We see new logo customers moving their workloads over there. And this really enables a big part of our business. And looking forward to cooperate in the future on this part. So thank you very much for having the opportunity. And let's go into Q&A.
Thank you, Hans. Thank you, Robin. Thank you to our attendees. We're now going to enter the Q&A session. We've got 7 or 8 minutes to address some questions. We have the first question is going to be directed to Robin. Hans talks about hybrid IT in his presentation. What are Colt's views on the future of IT? Are we heading towards a hybrid world? Robin, do you want to take that?
Yeah, no problem. I don't think we've got a choice. I think what I'm seeing, certainly, even within the organisations I've worked with and the clients I go and speak to, is a not a lack of control, but business units in their own right taking decisions and moving towards using software and cloud-based applications to help them. That with it comes with its own issues. And I think when we talk about hybrid, I think that there's 2 ways of talking about it. One is on an infrastructure basis, and I think we can understand and manage the risks associated with a dev environment and or limited self-hosted or cloud-based production environments. But I think increasingly that there is a security issue around how we manage data in the cloud when it's being put there by other departments that don't necessarily sit within IT. And some of the research we've done has pointed to the fact that control, maybe control is the wrong word, but certainly more and more applications and cloud services are being purchased outside of the IT department than before. So I see a hybrid world as a reality, and I think we need to put everything we can in place to help our clients' IT departments be flexible in managing those, and wherever possible, putting private connections into them. And we see that with the cloud platforms that we provide private connections to, and we see that enabling control over that hybrid world.
Thank you, Robin. Another question, Hans, a question for you. Can you justify the statement that cloud protects sensitive data? There are lots of headlines that would indicate otherwise.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's indeed you need to find the right platform for your cloud application and your data. I think if you look at our designs for hybrid cloud, we use our tools ArcSight, Fortify, Tipping Points, and so on and so on. And the other thing is, if you look at the cloud environments, they managed from a few places around the world, and they're managed all in the same way, consistently with the newest releases. We keep it up to date, so there's a clear release process around this. And that is not always the case within companies who are doing it on their own, because you need to have qualified resources, and sometimes people are on holiday. So I think in a combination of tools, how you set it up, also with your networking, data center environments, I think it's quite it's very safe. The other thing is that we have specific clouds for governments and hospitals in the UK. Also, even with higher levels of security. So a lot of investment is being done on that part.
Great. Thank you, Hans. Robin, you talk about being carrier neutral, but isn't there a conflict of interest between Colt's network versus other providers?
I think that's certainly an obvious question to ask a company whose majority of business is from networking. And I think it's absolutely relevant. I think the way Colt is structured is that our data center services business is a complete standalone line of business. And what we've identified over the years that we've been running a data center estate is that it's absolutely critical that our data centers can compete or be better than those of our competitors. So although we have a fantastic, very dense network, both in Western Europe and in Asia and connecting into North America, we also ensure that we have many other independent and multiple carriers in our data centers. And so, we have, and I'm not talking just one other, I'm talking multitudes of other carriers in our networks. That's not only something customers demand from us, but it's also something that we are promoting and actively go and seek out, because we believe it makes our data centers more saleable. And when we look at our data centers, we really understand networking. We really understand fiber connectivity into the sites. And, I would, whenever you hear someone in a data center saying they've got 500 carriers in their data center, I'd like to understand how they dug 500 separate bits of fiber and ducts into the site. We make sure that we have multiple carrier fiber routes into every one of our data centers, and that enables customers to ensure they have the network separacy and the neutrality that they need from all of the carriers that they require.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Robin. So that brings us just about to the end of today's webinar. I'd very much like to thank Robin Brown from Colt Data Center Services, Hans van Breda from HP, HP's Cloud Practice. Most especially to thank the audience for joining us today, for taking part in the polls, and for their questions. Just final couple of pieces. To the attendees, you will receive an email tomorrow telling you how you can access the on-demand version of this webinar, or you can access this through our website at www.business-review-webinars.com. As I say, you can continue to follow Colt at Colt_technology and follow this discussion of the hashtag Colo2Cloud. We look forward to sharing further webinars with you, so please keep an eye out on the website just mentioned, or follow us on Twitter at BRWebinars for daily updates, or join our LinkedIn group for Business Review Webinars. Just remains for me to say thank you again to our hosts, Colt Data Center Services, the partner, HP. Thank you for joining us, and goodbye.